All right, we are recording. Hey, Tia.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for coming on to the show. So I told you a little bit about it before. It's basically all about cooking. The audience that I'm trying to reach are people who are, home cooks, people who want to learn how to cook, have tried different recipes and things like that, but still just kind of struggling. So the goal is to like give them some helpful tips to, help them out when they're in the kitchen.
I understand.
And I love talking about I love talking about food. We talk about food all the time. I say food is my love language. So we'll just go ahead and get started. So I've never tasted any of your food, but I know that you can cook because we talk about food. So so my first question is, who taught you how to cook? Or did you teach yourself?
Wow.
Kind of what was that process like?
I would say so before, because I do have older siblings, I would say it had to be my sister. So she would
Okay.
always cook something for us. And I'm like, dang, I want to eat too. I want to be able to do something of my own. So she'd be like, oh, do it like this. Like it was just seeing, no measurements, no nothing, small stuff for little kids like eggs and noodles. But then I would say my grandmother, because my grandma had everything in her house labeled. When I say labeled, she she would put her rice in like measuring, like silk type containers with measuring cups in there. So she would write little notes. And at first I'm like, why is she doing all of this? But then I realized why, because when me and my cousins would come here and we want to cook, she said, all you have to do is follow the instructions. So I would say my grandma and my sister.
So do you remember how your sister taught you, or do you remember the first thing that she taught you, or that you learned how to cook from your sister?
From my sister, never cook on high. So
I tell my daughter the same thing. That's so funny. I tell her the same thing.
Never cook on high. She said, I don't care what anyone say, you never cook your food on high. You don't need to boil faster. It's gonna boil the same, just a little bit of time. So definitely. And then she was like, you don't want to burn the house down.
Right. Do you remember what was the first thing you learned how to cook?
I would say hamburger helper.
Okay.
It was simple.
Right.
In the box. I didn't have to add any, besides milk and water. It wasn't too many steps that you had to take.
So. What about with your grandmother? So do you remember anything that your grandmother taught you when you were with her?
Well, my grandma, because we're, my family is a little bit from down south, so like they're geechee. We eat a lot of rice. So I would love eating rice. So the first thing my grandma taught me, because again, I would eat rice and butter, rice and hot sauce, anything with rice, I was eating it. So my grandma told me so she had a cup in her rice container. And she said, for every 1 cup of rice, you're going to put 2 cups of water.
Okay.
And then for the salt, she had a little salt shaker. So again, there was no measurement. She was like, shake maybe 3 shakes. Sometimes it will be bland, but hey, I put the butter in it at the end, the hot sauce. It tasted fine. She told me boil it with the top on. When I saw it come to a good boil, put it on low, let it simmer, and that was pretty much it.
So how did you learn how to season your foods properly?
Measurements. So you don't want to have over salty food, because
right. Exactly.
that will mess up your whole dish and it's trash.
Right.
If it's bland, you can always add in, but sometimes that's not always the best. So measurements, invest in some measuring cups, some measuring spoons, and good pots.
But you don't measure now though, do you?
No, I don't measure now because most of the time when they be like, oh, some people say it's simple. It's not simple. You have to do it for a while and then you're able to eyeball it, or
Mm-hmm.
you're able to say, hey, I've used this season before. I like how this tastes. I like how this season
Mm-hmm.
my food. Or so I invest in seasonings like herbs, when it comes to like garlic, things that doesn't contain salt, just because it gives it a little bit more flavor, and you can always add
Mm-hmm.
salt at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't
So
know.
so for the person, so I kind of always use this example. So for the person that's, let's say they want to cook chicken, they've never really cooked chicken before, they're gonna put it in the oven, and somebody tells them, all right, just put some salt and pepper in there. And they're like,
No.
but well, salt and pepper, other things, but you can't taste chicken, you can't taste raw chicken.
No. No.
So you don't know what it tastes like. So given that example, what do you think you would tell somebody if they were like, well, how much salt, like, how do I know how much salt to put on there? How do I
Um, Hopefully they have measuring spoons, because I would
right.
say use like a teaspoon or even the small baby spoons. You know, some people may not have
Yeah,
measuring cups, but if
yeah.
you have kids and you have like a little baby spoon, use a baby spoon of salt, because again, you can always add in at the end to your liking or to your
Mm-hmm.
tasting. The same thing with pepper. Again, I can't say a pinch because everybody pinch is different.
Everybody's
So I
different.
would say definitely you want to have at least some type of spoon where you're able to see, is this a good amount?
Mm-hmm.
But I would say at least a teaspoon or a teaspoon
Mm-hmm.
and a half, or again, a baby spoon if you have one.
So basically, like, if you're cooking chicken, start with maybe like a teaspoon or something. And
Yes.
then if you liked it, then that was enough. If you didn't like it, then maybe next time you might want to use a little bit more.
Yes.
I had one of my friends tell me a long time ago because I asked him the same question, like, how do you know when it's enough? Because when people are learning how to cook, that's very intimidating,
Mhm.
right? Because you don't want to waste food. Like, you don't want to, I mean,
No.
more than likely probably gonna mess up some dishes, but you don't really want to waste food because food is expensive, right? So
Yes.
you definitely don't want to over salt it, especially because then it's ruined. You know what I
Yes.
mean? But anyway, so he told me to season it until you can like really see the seasonings on it. I don't know if that makes any sense to you. Like, really
I
be
have
able to
heard.
see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have also heard, it's this saying going around, if you ain't sneezing, you ain't seasoning. But it's so weird because I kid you not, it's true. But when you
This
use
is true.
herbs, like I don't try to stay away from the salt, things that have salt in there, because the garlic powder, all these other seasonings, when you season that food with cumin, all of that, you will start smelling it, but you'll start sneezing as well. So I
Mhm.
understand it a little bit, but it
So
just,
you don't use salt at all?
so I do use salt,
Okay.
but I'm not gonna say I use a lot of salt. I don't.
Okay.
'Cause when I cook with my food, I buy like the Kinders. I buy
I remember you telling me
seasonings
that.
that have like 3 different flavors in there, or I
Okay.
use broth. So sometimes when I cook my rice, I'll use like the chicken bouillon powder, and I'll just put 1 scoop of that, and it flavors my rice.
Right.
When I'm cooking spaghetti noodles or something with noodles, I usually try to cook it in chicken broth, just to give it that extra flavor. So I'm not adding salt in there.
Mm.
So
Okay.
it's simple and easy for people, but if you don't want to waste broth, you know.
Yeah. 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 I've never done, I do rice in broth sometimes, but I've actually never done noodles in broth. I like heavily salt my noodle water. So my, noodles have a lot of flavor, but I'm going to try
Yeah,
cooking with
and I do
noodles.
macaroni and cheese when I make homemade macaroni and cheese, or potato salad. Hopefully I'm
Mhm.
saying potato salad, not potato salad. I use chicken broth, or I'll use like the chicken bouillon just to give it a little bit of flavor, because you don't want to have no bland, you can add salt. A lot of
Right.
people add salt, but I just like that extra flavoring of the
Right.
chicken broth.
Right. Right. So anything else you can think of that you thought of? Like, say, for instance, you were teaching a family member how to cook. What do you think the first thing you would tell them, or just something that you might tell them other than we already know, like, don't cook your food on high. You ain't got to cook your food on high all the time.
Right. I would say prepare and prep everything before you even turn your stove on. Make
Yeah.
sure you have everything out. If you're using certain seasonings or you're saying, hey, I know I'm gonna put this in my food, take everything out.
Mhm.
Make sure everything's on the counter. If you cooking with onions, if you cooking with peppers, cut them onions and peppers up before
Right.
you even turn your stove on. You just want to have everything prepared because you don't want to burn your food, and then
Right.
you want to be looking for something and you don't have it and your food don't come out
Right.
good. So
Yeah.
just preparing and prepping everything ahead of time.
Yeah, that's actually what we do in cooking school, in culinary school.
Mhm.
So we have to get our mise en place in place. So cut everything up. We measure in cooking school. So we measure everything out, cut everything up. We put it on this big tray so that when it's time to cook, we take the whole tray most of the time over to the stove, and then we start cooking that way. So yeah, that's actually what I started doing at home too. So
Me too. It comes out, your food comes out way better.
it
It's not
actually it actually
overcooked or
does.
undercooked.
Right.
Comes out because you're able to watch it. You already have everything. You don't got to worry about, let me look for this, and you got your stove on and it's getting overcooked.
Right.
So
Right. So do you have a favorite dish that you like to cook, or something that I know you like salmon because you
cabbage.
cook salmon. Oh, you said.
I
So,
love cabbage.
so tell us how to make cabbage. We don't know how to make cabbage.
Okay.
Tell us how to make it. So we know we got to cut it up. We know all that stuff. So what else do we got to prepare in order to cook cabbage the way Tia cooks her cabbage?
Okay, so if I was gonna cook cabbage again, different, I'm always using some type of meat. Or sometimes I do it without meat. So I recommend if you do use meat, use something like beef sausages. Some people use bacon, or you can get corned beef in a can just to
Okay.
give it a little bit extra flavor. I buy the cabbage, of course. I buy a whole cabbage. I cut up the whole cabbage.
Mhm.
I buy pepper, so red pepper, green
Okay.
pepper, onions,
Okay.
and I'll use a half or 1/3 of the pepper of the red pepper or the green pepper. The same with the onion, maybe
Mhm.
like a third of the onion.
Mhm.
I'll also use minced garlic.
Okay.
I use tomatoes. I use tomato paste just because I like it to have a little bit of coloring and it adds more flavor.
Okay.
What else do I put in my cabbage? Oh, I buy carrots. So you can
Okay.
get the shredded carrots or you can get the baby carrots and cut them up.
Okay.
And when I first started, I cooked all the peppers, the onions, the garlic, the tomatoes, and the tomato paste. And I put like maybe some coconut oil. If you're trying to be healthier, you can use chicken broth or vegetable broth. And then just simmer it until I would say cook it for maybe 5 minutes
Mhm.
or 7 minutes, and then add up the cut up cabbage. Now, if you're doing it with meat, you want to add that sausage in with the onions and stuff just to give it a little bit more flavor.
Mhm.
Without the meat, again, you're going to avoid that step. And that's a that's about it.
You gonna have to bring me some of this cabbage because
I
it's
know I'm always making it with either the sausages or with corned beef. I switch it up.
Mhm.
And sometimes I try to add in my extra veggies. I will put spinach in there. They will not know. They'll still
Right.
eat it.
Right. Exactly. I know you like to make salmon too,
Yes, I do.
because we talk about that at work.
Yes,
We
that
talk
is,
about that too. Yeah,
yes.
I love salmon. I don't really make it that much at home though. I should start.
Yeah,
So,
it's tasty. When I tell you, you could put it on, I cook it every way: stove, oven,
right,
grill,
right.
air fryer.
Right.
You name
Oh, listen. So I made sweet potato fries in my air fryer for the last couple of days.
it. How was it?
They were good. Now I haven't figured out yet how to get them a little bit crispy. So I know they're not gonna be real crispy,
Okay.
but mine really kind of aren't crispy at all. But they're not mushy either. So I haven't figured that out yet, but they're still good though.
I'm gonna have to try it.
They were
I know
still
my
good.
son used them waffle fries in the air fryer, but I'm like, but the sweet potato
Yeah,
fries is pretty tasty.
they are. They're really, especially like when the edges get a little, kind of burnt a little bit. it caramelizes and it just tastes real good. Ooh, it was good. It was good. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
And hopefully, we can do some cooking on live.
Yeah, maybe we will one day. Maybe we will do some, cooking. Maybe you can show us how to maybe cook that cabbage or something, or,
Definitely.
whip something else up for the people. For the people. All right. Well, thank you. And talk
You
to you
are so
later.
welcome. Bye.
Don't hang up though.
Okay.